Hi, this is Fantasy Artist Ed Beer Jr., and this is my Part 2 multiple character scene drawing demonstration. And this is continued from Part 1. We're going to be working on the robe work a little more using the Tortillon paper stump smudging tool. As you can see, I'm working with the graphite that I've already put down earlier, and I'm smudging it in and blending it. In fact, actually shadowing a lot of the midtones with it. It's a great tool. You got to make sure that your Tortillon's points or the tips are either blunt all the way through very fine pointed. Right about now I'm using a more fine pointed one. This way I can get it right about now. As you see, I put that line in there real nice and fine because I had a good point on the end of this paper stump. That's why it's important to have a variety of different heads on the point on the paper stump, making different points to them. And this can be done easily just by using them. Getting a blank piece of paper, putting some graphite down, and then just smudging it until you blend it in. All right, we're going to start with metal and chrome and armor on the knight. We're going to be drawing it in to start, and then later, of course, smudging it in. Now I'm going to be starting with the helmet. And when you're doing chrome or metal work, especially in this case where I want a highly reflective look, it's going to be important to keep in mind where the light source is coming from, which is in this case the right hand side shining into the left. But also the fact that with metal you get a lot of pickups from reflective light as well as reflections from other areas in the environment. In this case it would be his shoulder, perhaps even part of the cape, maybe even the pole that's holding the flag. But since there's some areas that are so small, so tiny, it's just important that we put indication lines. Now that can be blended shadows where you have darks going from dark mid-grade to highlight, and then some just very fine line work which gives the impression of a reflection. I always recommend to my students that they take a look at some chrome bumpers from old cars or some images they can either find in magazines, books, or on the web, which demonstrate the metal effects of chrome and the way reflections occur as they bend around rounded surfaces. And that's one of the ways that I studied and got some basic ideas of the way in which reflections occur. Now in the crevices that are in the armor, all the different rounded crevices, anytime I come across a rounded area, I always make sure that I leave just a hairline of open space. Like even if it's, you'll see what I'm doing the arm right now, I'll leave just a hairline over the bicep. I'm going to give you a close-up of this later on so you're going to be able to see what I'm saying. I'm not shadowing it right to the end of the line or the outside perimeter. I'm actually leaving a little bit of white. So I'm leaving a little white, then I'm shadowing from dark to light, and then I'm putting a fine line of reflection after the fact. And by doing this, it gives the impression that this is not an absorbing fabric or material. It's a reflective surface. And we just jumped ahead just a little bit. You've gotten the basic idea. Now I'm going in with the paper stump or tortillon, and I'm actually blending. This is a very fine tip paper stump, so I can get into the real fine details. There you go. I'm just blending in, shadowing where some of the more larger shadows would be. Just taking some of the armor and just blending it a little bit. Now, being careful not to fill this whole area in. It's most important that I leave some white spaces. Finishing up the trumpet. So blending, shadowing a little bit more deeper on the left side of his body. As we have said before, the light source is coming from the right-hand side. Working on the saddle. There you go. Now you can see where I've left the highlight, especially on the back side of that right arm. Now the next thing we're going to do, you just saw I sharpened the tip of my pencil with my sandpaper block. I'm going into the details on the head of the Martial Eagle, just trying to define the feather lines at first. So the first stage was, as we do feathers, is to try to redefine the shadow lines, redefine some of the individual outside contour lines of each feather. And later on I'll go in and I'll actually start to do some shadowing. I'll do some texturing, where I'll actually take line by line and create the individual hairs of the feather. But for right now on the head, I'm focusing a little bit more on just the pattern of the feathers. Much like you would lay roofing material or shingles, is how the feathers lay themselves out. And it really doesn't matter whether you're working from the top down or the bottom up, especially not with pencil work. You know, you just, some people like to work from bottom up when they do feathers because for them it's easier to alternatingly lay them out. You can work up, down, top, bottom, doesn't matter, whichever way is comfortable for you. Doing some of the gear, the reins that the knight would hold. Now I'm going in and I'm going to start to add just a little bit of dark lines, some indications of where the shadows are, more so on the left side and the back side of the head of the eagle. Threw in some of the shadowing on the leather strap there. And again, we're going to do this. We're working right now with an HB pencil rather than a 2B. An HB, which is a little bit harder lead, a little less for concerns about smudging and whatnot. Well, thank you very much for looking at part 2, and now on to part 3 of the multi-character scene drawing demonstration, where we will continue to work with the feathers in much more detail, working down into the talons, onto the crystals, and other aspects of this drawing. So check it out once again, part 3. I look forward to seeing you there.